There is a saying, often shared as a modern proverb from the desert. My grandfather rode a camel. My father rode a camel. I drive a Mercedes. My son drives a Land Rover. His son will drive a Land Rover, but his son will ride a camel. At first, it sounds poetic, almost exaggerated, but beneath these simple words lies a disturbing truth. Societies do not always move forward. Often they move in cycles. Cycles of hardship and ease. Cycles of discipline and indulgence. Cycles of wisdom gained and wisdom forgotten. This is not merely a story about wealth or technology. It is a story about human nature. The proverb begins with the camel. The camel is slow, uncomfortable, unforgiving, but it endures. To ride a camel is to understand thirst, distance, patience, restraint. Across civilizations, philosophers notice the same pattern. Aristotle taught that virtue is formed not in comfort, but through repeated struggle. The Stoics believed adversity trains the soul to distinguish what matters from what does not. Confucius warned that ease dulls character, while difficulty sharpens judgment. Hard conditions compress life to essentials. When survival is uncertain, waste becomes immoral. Effort is respected. Elders are listened to. Civilizations are not born in comfort. They are forged in necessity. Then comes the Mercedes. This stage represents success, but not decadence. The generation that drives the Mercedes did not invent hardship. They inherited its lessons. They remember hunger. They remember instability. They remember chaos. And so they build. They build institutions. They build discipline. They build order. Historian Will Durant, after studying thousands of years of history, observed, "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within." At this stage, prosperity is still young. Gratitude is still alive. Rome once stood here. So did early Islamic Baghdad. So did post-war Europe. Progress exists, but it is not yet worshipped. Then comes the Land Rover, still powerful, still capable, but different. This generation is born into success, not struggle. They inherit systems they did not build, freedoms they did not fight for, stability they did not earn. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But this generation has many comforts and fewer whys. Discipline begins to feel unnecessary. Tradition feels restrictive. Limits feel oppressive. Comfort slowly disguises itself as progress. This generation is not weak, but it is untested. Then quietly the camel returns, not because technology failed, but because culture did. The historian Ibn Khaldun called this asabiya, social cohesion forged by hardship. He observed a repeating pattern. Hardship creates unity. Unity creates power. Power creates comfort. Comfort dissolves unity. Empires fall not from invasion, but from erosion. Rome collapsed this way. Persia followed. Dynastic China repeated the cycle. Even modern industrial societies are not exempt. The camel returns when institutions decay, when responsibility is replaced by entitlement, when abundance consumes its own foundations. At the center of this cycle lies an uncomfortable truth. Human beings adapt faster to comfort than to wisdom. Plato warned that freedom without virtue decays into disorder, not because freedom is evil, but because desire is insatiable. The Stoics warned that luxury weakens resilience. Religious traditions warn that abundance tests the soul more severely than scarcity. The paradox is relentless. Hardship creates values. Values create prosperity. Prosperity erodes values. Eroded values recreate hardship. This cycle does not belong only to empires. It plays out in families. The disciplined grandparent, the ambitious parent, the comfortable child, the unprepared grandchild. Family wealth is often lost by the third generation. Businesses collapse after founders die. Moral inheritance is squandered. Edmund Burke warned that society is a partnership not only of the living, but of the dead and the unborn. When one generation lives only for itself, the camel waits patiently for the next. Is this cycle unavoidable? History suggests it is natural, but philosophy suggests it is not inevitable. Civilizations do not fail because they prosper. They fail because they forget. The solution is not poverty, it is memory. Remembering why restraint mattered, teaching discipline in abundance, honoring limits even in freedom. As the Stoics advised, do not spoil what you have by desiring what you do not. History has already tested this pattern, and the verdict is clear. Philosophy observes patterns. History confirms them. The cycle from poverty to wealth and back to poverty is not theoretical. It has happened, repeatedly, across continents, cultures, and centuries. Let us consider a few examples, not to accuse the past, but to learn from it. Number 1, Rome, from discipline to decadence. Early Rome was poor. Its citizens were farmers and soldiers. Luxury was frowned upon. Discipline was sacred. Roman virtue was built on restraint, duty, and sacrifice. But success changed Rome. As wealth flowed in from conquest, luxury replaced simplicity, status replaced service, power replaced responsibility. By the later empire, Roman elites avoided military service, lived off inheritance, relied on mercenaries. The very discipline that built Rome was no longer practiced by those who inherited it. Rome did not fall because it lacked wealth. It fell because wealth dissolved the character that once made it strong. Number 2, the Abbasid Caliphate, knowledge, luxury, decline. Early Islamic civilization rose from scarcity. The first generations lived simply. Leadership was accountable. Knowledge was pursued with seriousness. Baghdad became the center of learning in the world. But as prosperity grew, political responsibility weakened. Court luxury expanded, unity fractured. The institutions remained, but the spirit that built them faded. The decline was gradual, not dramatic. Empires often die quietly. Number 3, dynastic China, the repeating pattern. Chinese historians openly documented this cycle. Each dynasty began the same way, born from hardship, unified by discipline, strengthened by reform. And each ended the same way. Corruption, excess, detachment from common people. The mandate of heaven was not lost in a moment. It eroded as rulers forgot the conditions that justified their authority. The camel always returned. Number 4, modern nations. The cycle continues. Modern societies are not exempt. Many nations rose from war, famine, or colonial struggle with remarkable unity and discipline. But generations born into stability often assume permanence, neglect civic responsibility, confuse rights with entitlement. Institutions still exist, but trust weakens. History does not repeat exactly, but it rhymes. Number 5, institutions, from mission to maintenance. This cycle is visible not only in empires, but in institutions. Universities founded to pursue truth become bureaucracies. Companies built through innovation become brands living off legacy. Religious institutions born in sacrifice lose moral authority when comfort replaces conviction. The structure survives, the purpose fades. Number 6, families and individuals, the 3-generation rule. Perhaps the clearest example is personal. Sociologists and economists often note, wealth rarely survives 3 generations. The first generation struggles, the second builds, the third consumes, the fourth starts over. Not because the third is evil, but because they did not inherit the memory of struggle. As the philosopher Seneca warned, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who desires more, that is poor. Why this keeps happening? The pattern repeats because success removes the feedback of hardship, comfort dulls gratitude, inheritance replaces effort, memory fades faster than wealth. Progress solves material problems faster than it solves moral ones. History then does not condemn prosperity. It warns us about forgetfulness. The proverb is not a prophecy. It is a warning. The camel does not return because progress ends. It returns because character erodes. A society that preserves humility and success, discipline and freedom, and purpose beyond pleasure can enjoy the Mercedes without summoning the camel. But history is patient, and when lessons are forgotten, the desert waits. Always. The question is not whether progress will continue, but whether wisdom will.